Hi there. Today is Saturday, March 12th, 2022, making this the week 10 update for Create Brilliance 2022 with your hostess Jennifer Vanderbeek of scrapsoflife.com. Hi, how you doing? Um for people in my area of the southeast here, how are you dealing with the storms that rolled through and all the wind and the rain and the chilly weather that it's brought back? Uh, Not that I'm complaining. Not that I'm complaining. I wasn't quite ready for it to start getting hot and humid. Now it's just cold and humid. Such is life. Okay. So, oh, fiddlesticks. Where did my camera go? Okay, there it went. Apparently, we're having some technological difficulties. I thought I had it straightened out. Hopefully, it will stay. Um, yeah, that's fun. Hmm. Okay. So, first things first, I want to share a finished project yeah, project. That counts. All right. So, the shawl that I've been working on since I was in Arizona, the Sonora uh the Sonora Plus shawl by oh, wait. Let me find the All You Knit is Love. That's the pattern designer. It's not perfect. I'm okay with that. It's a little wonky, especially here, like on the spine, like the center of the shawl where most of the increases happen along the center. Um, yeah, I can see what I caught happen was that the stitch marker in the middle that was supposed to tell me when to put the yarn overs, I caught it slipping underneath a yarn over here or there. And yeah, it made for a little bit of a jog. Now I haven't blocked this yet. The process of blocking is actually, did I this isn't even the right side, you guys. I have this backwards. That real quick then. Ooh, my gosh. No wonder it looked a little funky. I mean, it's still wrong, but I was showing you the back side. Oh my gosh. It might actually look a little bit better from the front. Oh, goodness. So I haven't blocked this yet. Blocking means that I will heat it with I'll get it nice and wet, then press out, not wring, press out the water. And then, oh, hey, look, yeah, it looks a little bit more correct. Okay. And then press out the water and then stretch it and pin it to its like full size and with all the patterning and the lace and everything. Yeah, that's what helps it keep its shape. And anytime you wash a knitted garment, especially lace, you may have to do that in order to get it to do what it's supposed to do. So anyway, yes, the center spine here, I can see where it jogged a few times, and I need a little bit more practice reading charts and stuff. Um, yes, I did. I had some difficulties with it, but at the same time, it's kind of reflective of the time in which I was knitting it. So, it works. I'm still happy that it's done. Um, Again, aside from blocking, and I will wear it proudly. It'll definitely it'll like pass the 5 foot test probably when it's and when it's draped around you. I won't be able to notice anything. So, yep, there it is, my finished Sonora Plus. Um, yeah, and I picked this one as a reminder. I had picked this pattern because the Sonoran Desert is the area I was traveling to, and this was the travel project I'd picked out. All right, so we go from finished product projects to new beginnings. Um, I Over the weekend I dreamed up a project. If For those of you guys who, or for for those of y'all who watched the Return to Creativity video series in 2021, you may recall that I was working on a stuffed animal pattern, creating a stuffed animal pattern. Um, I ended up setting that aside for the book and for the novel and coloring book projects, but I always wanted to get back to it. Well, I had this little brainstorm as I was trying to fall asleep last weekend, because been having trouble with the faces, and I just wasn't happy with the fabric faces that I was coming up with, shaping the heads and so forth. And then, I had this flash, when I had gone to one of the book to art groups in the fall. We had used air dry clay, and it was so nice to work with the clay. And I had such a good time crafting that little fox. It's on the other side of the room. I'm not going to go get it right now. But yeah, I was like, that worked really well. And so I'd gotten some air dry clay. Oh, there goes the video again. Come on, there we go. I don't know what's going on. I think I'm gonna have to like uninstall it and reinstall it or something. I don't know. At any rate, I had gotten some air dry clay so that I could do the rock formation for the Arizona wall of the flaunt diorama, and I still had plenty left over. And so I was thinking, well, what can I do with it? It's not like it's going to go bad as long as it doesn't dry out. And I thought, well, wait a minute. What if I sculpt the heads, the faces of the animal statues, figures that I was going to do? Because I wasn't really meaning them to be stuffed animal. They were kind of a more of a mixed media art project anyway. This just kind of makes it a little bit more obvious. And the first one I wanted to do in that respect was a giraffe. And so here we go. This is, yeah, I had added some clay here, and it obviously decided to draw away as it dried, but that's okay. I'll feel that when I do the final, painting and stuff. But yeah, hello. He's even got a little tongue sticking out. And yes, those are eyelashes. If you haven't seen a giraffe lately or looked at their pictures, they have really, really pretty eyelashes. So I took some false lashes and embedded them into the eyelid there, before the clay had a chance to dry. And yeah, and little tip, these the little horns, the little giraffe horns, they're actually skull protrusions, and they're called ossicones. Useless trivia for the day. Or maybe not useless, who knows? But anyway, so yeah, so I have this ridge here. The idea is that everything else is going to be pretty much fabric, and other softer materials. But in order to bring it up his neck, then this little ridge will allow me to help fasten it around there. And then ideally, maybe his head will be posable. I don't know. I'm still working out all the little bits, but I had dreamt it up, and um, I have made some notes, and then I said, well, let's give it a shot. And I was on a Zoom call Wednesday night, and I always like to have something to do with my hands. And I knew that the lace portion of the border here was going to be a bit too involved, to try and work on while on a Zoom call. That would take a little bit too much concentration. um So yeah, I decided to just keep my hands busy by, and he's not like super realistic. He's not meant to be because my style isn't super realistic. But yeah, so I made him late Wednesday night, and so he's had a few days to dry. I think he's pretty much dry. I've got him on a piece of bamboo that I'd cut from a bamboo stake left over from last year's garden. Um, and yeah, so hopefully, I mean, I don't know when I'm gonna get to the fabric portions, but I want to be able to include him in a as an exhibit piece in the next Tom Collective exhibit, which that deadline is for submissions is just over a month. It's tax day. It's April 15th. Um, so yeah, I will continue to work on him and a couple other projects. Because yeah, I wanna put some new stuff in there in the show. I missed the last one because, well, that was just when things were a little pear-shaped still. But it's okay. It's okay. Much better place now. And then otherwise, I've been working on book 4. I have been, chipping away at that. The the light bulb moment a week ago that I can't remember if I mentioned last week or not, because I was so excited to be able to share the flaunt stuff with you. Um, I had this light bulb moment that changed the plot again for me, for the better, for the better. It was kind of one of those 3 a.m. flashes of inspiration. So I tapped it out on my phone, so that I wouldn't forget it. And so now I'm building that in. Thankfully, it didn't change anything of the introductory part that I'd already written, just like setting the scene in town and everything. So that's good. I didn't like waste any writing. Um, but at the same time, I think it will be a much better direction for the story and much more on point as far as genre conventions and so forth. So, because some of the earlier ideas were veering outside of cozy mystery into I don't even know what. They were taking a path that was not appropriate. Not appropriate. Um, yeah, it was just like off genre. It was kind of it was something else. So, lots of rabbit trails, and who knows? That information may come in handy for, because I had done some research and, was plotting some other things. So that might come in handy at another point in time. But right now, I kind of drew it in. I was able to draw it in a little bit and tighten up the story, I hope. So, still working on that. Also, I am working on kind of a twofold project. So, I've started a course online for copywriting, not copywriting as in protecting one's ownership of creative created items like books and artwork and stuff. No, no, copywriting as in writing copy for you know for whatever, for companies and in whatever venue. Not only is it a potential, income stream for myself while I'm still getting, the books and everything up and running, I'm hoping that it will also help me um, in terms of marketing the books and marketing myself as an artist. So that's why I said it's kind of a twofold project. And so I've been doing a lot of studying, a lot of note taking, and putting some serious time into that to improve, everything all around. So yeah, there's that. And yeah, so now would be the time when I would tell you my brilliance lesson for the week. And I think I had a really good one yesterday in the shower, but I didn't write it down. So I don't necessarily remember what all I was gonna say. Um, but I can say that brilliance is pressure. And I have been feeling that pressure. Pressure that I put upon myself, pressure that society puts on us in general, pressure that oh, I just remembered. Ooh, okay, I'm gonna write it down and I'll use it next week. I just remembered what I was going to use. But that's okay. It will still be relevant next week because, well, it is still relevant. I'm gonna write it down right now, and I'm not gonna give it away. Give it away. I'm not gonna say it because I guess we could have a twofer, but yeah, no, we're not going to. I'm gonna go with pressure because And I did see Encanto a couple months ago. So, yes, I do have surface pressure from Encanto running through my brain right now as I'm talking about this. But, we talked before about you know, diamonds, gemstones. They're not even, well, I don't know how the ones that are created in a lab but I imagine there's still some pressure involved. But when they're created in the earth, they start as something completely different and are subjected to immense pressure over immense amounts of long periods of time, eons. And only then, do they transform into a gemstone. And of course, we talked last week about breaking, and they still have to be, they still have to be cut and polished and all that stuff. But the pressure that we are under is a lot. And sometimes brilliance is recognizing that pressure for the positive benefits that it may have. Um, the pressure of a deadline, for instance. Setting a deadline is a great motivator. The pressure of a goal that we're trying to achieve, whether you consider that a deadline or not. The same kind of pressure, those are positive pressures because they push us, they press us to meet the challenge. But then there are additional pressures that are maybe not healthy. There's pressures that we put on ourselves, like perfectionism. I am not a perfectionist. I used to be. I used to feel like I had to be perfect, or at least had to be trying to be perfect. Um, and I say that, I'm a reformed perfectionist. Somebody asked me one time, "Oh gosh, how did you manage that?" Burnout, breakdowns. Don't do it the way I did it. Recognize that perfectionism is not worth the effort. Um, But that is a pressure that we put on ourselves, that society can sometimes put on ourselves, and that is an unwelcome pressure, and that is a pressure we can take off of our shoulders with a lot of effort. It's I say that as if it's, you just brush the dust off. No, it's not that simple. I know it's not. It takes a lot of concerted effort unless you wanna go the breakdown route, and I don't, I don't recommend that. No, no, not at all. Um, yeah, so there's that. But also there's pressures that outside of perfectionism, there's pressures that society puts on us from the constantly have to be working, constantly have to be producing, constantly having to justify your existence as if existing isn't enough of a justification for anything. We are here on this planet for who knows how long. We don't know how many days we have. We don't know when the we don't know when it's all going to be over. Um, we were talking at book club this past week about a book called On Having and Being Had by Eula Biss. It's nonfiction, it's a series of essays. A lot of them are very short, quick reads. And it deals with things like ideas around capitalism and like the whole, being an artist and the things we sacrifice and the things, it's like owning stuff. We work so that we can own stuff was one of the ideas. We work so we can buy stuff. We work so we can maintain stuff and then replace it when that stuff is used up. Um, and about work ethics and how sometimes work ethics are, can become toxic. You can, and how, you know, we work so much for other people's bottom lines, but we sacrifice ourselves for it. And this is something that I've encountered. This is something I've lived, sacrificing myself for someone else's goals. And that's not the only way to live. And it can be very difficult if that's the lane you grew up in to take a step back or even to step out onto the shoulder and say, huh, I don't know if I want to be part of this particular lane anymore. I don't, kind of like, stepping away from the rat race. I don't know if they still call it the rat race, but I know in like what the 90s they did. Yeah. So it's been an interesting couple of weeks reading that book, and then the week prior, and then talking about it this week, and admittedly putting that onto my own situation, because that's what we do. We take in art, we take in books, we take in whatever, and we take that in and we look at it through the lens of our own lives. And through the lens of my life, having recently stepped out of the corporate America office job, you know, we're coming up on a year in July. So still a few months, but yeah, it's been a chunk. It's been a chunk of a year. It's 3/4 of a year. Um, Having stepped away from that and the changes I've made in my life for good, and but some of them haven't been as easy, not having the extra cash and stuff, you know. There's no overtime when you're there's no overtime pay when you're a self-employed writer and artist. Not how it works. Um, and I still know and acknowledge the privilege that I am living right now, being able to do this. Um, I wouldn't be able to do it if Todd weren't willing to, support me in that way. Um, but I still have a responsibility to myself and to him, and in our marriage and our relationship, to still work and create and produce. I'm just doing it for myself and my husband and my relationships, and and trying to do something that is more appropriate to me and my skill sets. I was a good bookkeeper, but after 25 years, yeah, you get tired of doing the same thing. And especially for me, it was doing that, but not having enough time and energy to do my own work when I got home. There was a year and a half where I did next to nothing creative, and it wore on me. And that's where the Return to Creativity project came in. And it was that concerted effort to put myself back on the right track. And that's, I spent a year doing that, and I returned. And so now I'm trying to take that and polish it up and make something and make a life for myself outside of just making time and eking out time. And if anything, I want to be able to encourage other people to find those moments where they can return to creativity. And so I've kind of got like a project in the back of my mind that I may be working on in the coming months as well, that is more for encouraging others, and maybe keeping someone from getting to the point where I was, where having to completely change their life, and you know make some drastic changes, um because if I hadn't had to do that, who knows, nobody knows, because it's it was the path not taken. Speaking of the Picard episode we watched this week, that's a whole nother thing, and we're not going in there. But anyway, so getting back to the whole brilliance is pressure. Maybe brilliance is not so much the pressure itself, but being able to discern which pressures are helpful and which pressures are hurtful or harmful. And not just the cognizance to recognize, but the wherewithal to do something about it. Whether that's just mentally distance ourselves from the pressures that don't apply to us and that we don't need, or to take a stand against pressures that have no place in our lives when they come from people or paradigms that are being pushed upon us. So that's the thought for this week. And I remembered the other one, so I've got it written down. I'll stick it on my monitor as a reminder so I will see it and will not forget it again. And yeah, so until next week, stay warm if it's cold, stay comfortable if it's warm where you are or hot. And as always, try and find some time for yourself and don't be afraid to show the world your brilliance. Bye-bye.